What's up guys, Peepo here, and today's video is going to be about this, the Boombah, or Boombah Lacrosse, compressor head. So, just a nice little kind of few profile shots of it. And so, the compressor head is a little bit of an older head from Boombah. It's not their latest one. Their latest one is the ATK. Just going to kind of read off the little tag for it first before I get into it. But the bottom rail is designed for mid-pocket placement, ultra stiff, balanced face shape and mild offset, 20 sidewall holes for maximum stringing options, universal specs for all levels of play, which doesn't necessarily matter anymore as far as universal is concerned, because of the rule changes to where pretty much everyone's switching over to a NCAA profile for heads. But as far as universal heads go, it is a fairly solid shape. Crazy cat, get out of the way. But definitely does have an abundance of sidewall holes. The profile shape is, I would say, very similar to, let's go with a centric, a Maverick centric face shape. Pretty well rounded scoop up top, albeit it's a little on the flat side, and as you can see, if you can show it, it's a little pointed from the side profile. But all in all, I mean, just aesthetically, it's pretty much all glossy. There's no matte finish to it. It's a nice, subtle glossy. It's not super shiny or anything like that. But just kind of move from part to part and tell you what I think about it. And I mean, upon first seeing it, I was like, oh, that looks kind of like a lot of different heads out there. I mean, what's the purpose of looking like other heads and whatnot? But so, one of the main things about this head that I noticed is the sidewalls. You have two struts for strength and durability. I'd have to say from top to bottom or front to back, it has a decent amount of rigidity. It's not the most rigid, super stiff head I've ever come in contact with. I wouldn't suggest using it for a long pole, midi, or a deep pole. If anything, I would suggest it for midi attack and maybe even face-offs with how the strut designs are, and just because of the amount of flexibility it has. Which, I mean, I'm squeezing pretty hard to do this, but at the same time, if you look at a lot of different heads that are used for face-offs, not necessarily designed for face-offs, they have the very similar flex to them. It definitely has the curvature for a mid-setting pocket. The curvature is very similar to most other heads that offer up a mid-pocket setting, maybe a mid-low, even if you want a little bit of a mid-high. But it's definitely has the curvature right there in the middle for a mid-setting pocket. With that said, as far as stringing is concerned, I haven't strung it up yet, obviously, but I will have a continuation for the rest of the video for after it's strung and thrown with a couple times to give you further in-depth of the pocket as well as the head. But so, as you can see, there's a little bit of a variation for these top sidewall holes. These very top 2 to 3 are pretty much good for a double wraparound or a starting wraparound or whatever you want to call it, for when you attach the mesh to the head at the top for either your top sidewall, for your top string, or the top of your sidewall to start it off. Once you get into your third and then your fourth and fifth sidewall holes, the dimensions get larger, and personally I feel that's That's a good thing because not too many people start their sidewalls down here. They'll start them up in these top 3 and then jump down to these 2 or even lower. Listen, cat. You're not getting up in the window. Bye. But so I think it's a really good idea because if I can find one. Yeah, there we go. As you can see, they're pretty large. I mean, you can fit a shooter through the sidewall holes, the regular circular ones, but with these top ones, even if you were to put a sidewall string through there and do a knot, you'd still be able to put the shooting, get that out of the way, the shooting lace through there. So I feel that's the decision, or at least the tactic that's going on here with that. None of the other sidewall holes are any different sizes after those first 5 for your top area and shooter area. The rest of them are circular, which is pretty much how I would want a sidewall hole. I mean, I like the idea behind like your rhombus and diamond and all that stuff, all the different shapes and triangles and everything. I don't really have anything against those, but I feel that circular and maybe even square, like just straight up square like String King ones, circular and square are probably the best as far as not allowing the string to shift around, shift up and down or anything like that when the pocket is moving around. It allows for a nice secure string job, a nice secure sidewall pattern. Your top string holes are, I guess you could say, rectangular, slightly askewed, so I guess you could call them a rhombus or a diamond. They are big enough for a triangle top string. There's 6 of them. I mean, other than that, there's nothing too obscure or crazy about them. It has this slightly angled lip here for the scoop, which obviously I haven't messed with it too much yet, but before stringing anyway. But I feel because of this, it should allow a small amount of protection for the top string. As you can see, there's not too much of a recession or anything like that to go away from the actual scoop itself. And so, I mean, it's not going to really protect the top string too much, but then again, if you're ripping the top string, you're on concrete too much. So you might want to find a different place to do wall ball. But what's kind of cool about this top area here is this ridge. You can kind of see it in the lighting, but there's a recession that starts right in the middle, and then it works its way back towards the sidewall. So you can see it there, and then it just kind of blends away once you get to the scoop. But I think that'll allow for a little bit of a protection of the top sidewall stringing holes. Stop jumping up. You're not getting up there. But so, I mean, it's just a cool little feature. I don't think it's going to really do anything as far as performance, change anything. It kind of has, I wouldn't say it's a C channel, because it definitely doesn't have the function of that. But appearance-wise, some people would be like, oh, that's a C channel, that's a C channel. I don't really, it doesn't have a function like that. Sorry to disappoint. So I don't think, I mean, there's plenty of heads out there that kind of have this dual ridge sort of thing going on, but not as prominent. It's definitely not as prominent as a C channel, so I don't see any sort of worry like that. Your bottom attachment or string holes here are big enough for pretty much most leathers, so not too bad of a setup there. They're properly spaced, in my opinion. They're nice. The outer ones are nice and wide, so that if you do end up doing leathers, you don't have the leathers bunching up too much at the bottom. Your sidewall holes, your sidewall strings or laces or whatever you want to do for the bottom string will be pretty well spaced. It won't be bunched up right in the middle. You'll have a nice fluid pocket, in my opinion. Like I said, it's not the stiffest head in the world, but at the same time, it's not overly flimsy. So it's a good midfielder to attack head. Excuse me. That, I mean, it's overall a solid head up there. I mean, for your throat, his front has this nice kind of diamond structure. There's no real holes going from front to back or side to side. You have this recess, and then this on both sides, and then one really big feature that I really like about the compressor, and I like about Boombah's heads, is that they do the two screw hole concept, which I personally I like that better than any of these fancy throat locks or anything, or your throat compressions or whatever. All these super fancy things that the companies are trying to come up with that for the head to stay on the shaft. I personally feel that two screw holes performs better to me. I've never had any problems with any of the heads that I've used in the past that have the two screw hole concept. If anything, the head doesn't move at all. If at first the head's a little loose on a shaft, I usually put the whole sliver of tape on it and then put the screws in. So I mean, the compressor has fit on pretty much all the shafts that I've tried it on, snugly, not super tight, but enough to where once you put the screws in, it doesn't matter. But so overall, that's the first concept. Before stringing it, I really like the head. I feel it would take a traditional pretty well, and I feel that once I string it up with the mesh, that it will perform exceptionally well. So enjoy the rest of the video, guys, and I'll talk to you later. What's up, guys? And I'm back. Had it on a A7150 String King shaft to test it out, and I mean, all in all, I think that the head strung up really well. Wasn't really going for a high-end, super awesome pocket or anything like that. I just went for relatively general concept that I would usually do for myself or for an intermediate beginner player, so it's nothing too fancy, and I think it strung up really well. The sidewall holes were pretty much in a perfect position for everything that I needed it to. I tried 2 or 3 different patterns to really mess around with it to see how it would take different ones, and I'd have to say that overall it just strings up pretty well. I definitely would recommend it for anybody that's looking for a very affordable head. Scooping wise, I did throw with it and scoop with it a little bit. I'd have to say that even though it seems like it's somewhat of a flat, even though it's rounded from the front and kind of flat looking up top, it glided across grass relatively well. I'd have to test it more on turf, but more often than not, if it glides pretty well on grass, it'll glide pretty well on turf too. Didn't really feel that I had to worry about the top strings once I had it strung and was messing with it. Trying to have super tight top area didn't really affect the before mentioned less than stiff feel initially. I felt like the stiffness that it does have survived a tight upper channel area sort of concept, and it really does take that mid pocket setting really well. It sits there really nicely. Don't have to really worry about it shifting too high. Kind of set it to where it could shift just a little low if need be. And overall, I mean, I definitely like it. I believe the price is under $50 currently on Boombah's website. So for, I would say, a comparable head to like maybe the Clutch series, I would have to say it's comparable and worthy of being a $70 to $85 head, but for the price that you can find it at on their website, I think it's a really good affordable alternative to a lot of these $90, $100 heads that are out there when most players are just trying to get into the game and everything like that. It's definitely one of the more affordable options out there. Even if you were to go get their shafts, their compressor shafts as well, and the premium stringing kit from Boombah. If you were to go completely Boombah, you would probably, and this is performance mesh, so it's really nice. If you were to go with the whole set, including the compressor head, you'd probably end up spending a max of like $90 for a complete from Boombah, and I feel it's worth it as far as the head and the string kit is concerned, but the head definitely is worth it. So thanks for watching the entirety of this video, guys, and hopefully you got a little bit of something from that. I really don't have any complaints about this head. I think there's a couple little things here and there, like things that I touched on more than once. I feel those things should probably be improved for maybe a next model or anything like that. But if Boombah stays in the game of lacrosse, I think they could make really high quality things that are affordable for the masses, especially the players that have a hard time affording getting in. So thanks for watching, guys. Check out a Boombah lacrosse compressor head, and as well as their ATK head. The ATK head has more of an optic shape to it and is just as affordable as the compressor is. So thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you later.